Welcome to a Healing Peace podcast. My name is Kimera Baker. I am an overcomer. I am very passionate about helping others to achieve an abundant life fueled by spiritual principles and emotional balance. In this podcast series, we delve into spiritual self-care. Yes, we will explore exercising our minds and bodies, but more importantly, we will discuss strengthening our inner being, embracing God's love, and being filled by the fullness of God. As you take this journey with us, we want to inspire possessing your authentic selves and happiness. Welcome back. Before we get started, it's that time. Yes, our PSA. If you like what you've been listening to, please subscribe to our channel and leave us a review. The more reviews we receive, the more people we can reach. In fact, our little podcast made it to the 50th position out of 80 on FeedSpot Top 80 list for healing podcasts. I must admit, I am a tad bit competitive and I want to move on up that list. But to do that, we need your help. Go ahead, leave us a review. Tell your friends. Not only that, but after you subscribe, you gotta go ahead and listen to us a couple times. Don't subscribe and then vanish. Yes, listening actually does help too. Thank you for listening to our wonderful PSAs. Back to the show. We've been discussing having a winner's mindset. If you've been with me for a while, you know how we do. I always enjoy pulling together all that great information from the interviews to provide you with everyday tools and tips. All right now, and this is that episode. Before our interview with Kristen and podcast episode 112, More Than Conquerors, we explored being victorious through Christ. In His love, we can transform and grow into our healthier selves. Speaking with Kristen, she went in more detail on how we can grow and transform. More importantly, how are we able to do this with a winner's mindset? Yes, she done broke it down. Before I go into detail with our tools and tips, I have some questions for you. How do you tackle your personal growth? What motivates you to keep you going when things get rough? You may say to yourself, that's why I listen to your podcast. And if that's what you're saying, I say, girl, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Did you know that a Healing Peace podcast has a website? You will find resources along with our very own tools and tips on our website. Our tools and tips provide tangible principles to keep you on your emotional healing and wellness journeys. While you are on our website, sign up for our newsletter. You will receive a free emotional wellness assessment just for signing up. Also, you will stay informed about podcast episodes, courses, and workshops. You will receive all this great information just for signing up for our newsletter. Go to ahealingpeace.com today.
I know when I get overwhelmed, I easily shut down. I tell myself, I will deal with this later. Or I slowly become more irritated, not realizing that I'm frustrated by my own lack of personal growth. Usually when this happens, God places me in situations where I have to tell someone else how to pursue growth. Can I say, dang. While I'm encouraging them to move forward, I realize I cannot be a hypocrite. I must do the same. This happened this week. I was telling a friend that to heal, we cannot stuff or ignore our emotions. Instead, we have to vocalize it and find the support to get us to the next level. I even used an analogy. It goes like this. One day, you were not paying attention and you hit your toe against the bedpost. You know that hurt. Yes, it did. Womp, 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 womp. Instead of icing it and bandaging it, you ignore it. Over time, the toe gets infected and starts turning colors. You look at it in disgust. When you see your toe, you become mad at yourself for not tending to it right away. Perhaps you could have stopped it from being infected. We do the same thing with our emotional healing. What we do, we ignore it. And instead of getting better, it gets worse. In this particular case, not only does it affect ourselves, but it affects those around us. We know it's going to come out some kind of way, and it's going to be stinky. I'm reminded of my dishes situation. We all know we're supposed to rinse, and some y'all may still hand wash, but for others, we got the dishwasher. Well, of course, I was supposed to do this before I went to bed. I didn't. I went to bed. What happened? When I woke up the next morning, the house stunk. All because I decided to ignore it. Lo and behold, when we ignore it, our engagement with others becomes stinky. As I tell you this, remember that this is the Lord telling me to get my stuff together. And while he's telling me, I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and tell everybody else too, because that's what I do. I like to talk. We all know because you're listening to me. But in telling you this as well, I want you to know that you're not the only one faced with challenges to push forward in your personal growth. All right, I'll talk to death. Let's get to these tools and tips. Going on and inspire you with a little something. Tip number 1. Allow yourself to explore the unknown. Kristen shared about having a spirit that contemplates. She also revealed that when we are investigating our circumstances and life's path, to seek God's guidance through prayer. She also indicated seeking input from those who are close to us. When we do this, we are allowing ourselves the freedom to explore. There we go. For this week, consider one area of your life where you do not want to change. I'm going to give you some examples just to help you out a little bit. It may be finding new employment, ending an unhealthy relationship, or something smaller like cooking, learning new recipes, doing something different with your hair, or even trying a new soap. These are all circumstances that have come in my path recently. Anyways, pick one item. Now spend time considering the benefits of doing it differently. This might be hard to do initially, but remember to pray through and ask safe people. And when I say safe people, I'm not talking about someone who says, girl, now you know that's ugly. Yeah, that is not helpful. Perhaps something more like, you know, you look great in colors. Wearing colors lift your spirit. Girl, I support you and know it looks good on you. Yes, ease into it with the right support. And as I say this, I am revealing I could be a little sensitive. Tip number 2, which builds on tip number 1. To possess a contemplation spirit sometimes requires us to move beyond our fears. Kristen provided 2 great tips for moving beyond fears. The first one is to trust God in the unknown and allow Him to mold us. Simply, we let God move us. Now, tip number 1 and tip number 2 really are God talking to me. I surely just had an experience where I realized that I was not trusting God with my relationships. I trust God with everything else, like making sure that I have a roof over my head, employment, the means to enjoy myself financially. But with people, I am all over the place. And I mean all over. In my mind, I'm like, God, I trust you, but I don't trust people. As you can tell, I do have trust issues. This week, like I said, he was talking to me. This recently stuff. This week, when I was crying out in prayer and wrestling with trusting the unknown in relationships, I heard the gentle whisper speak. It stated, Kimir, do you not realize that God is with you? He is not going to bring people in your life to harm you, even if they do things you do not like, because we ain't perfect, or they are just all over the place because they got their own stuff. But even if in those circumstances, it does not mean that they are acting per God's will or according to God's will. The Spirit was like, God got you. I was like, okay. So this week, as I've been going around, when I've been starting to get nervous around certain people, I tell myself, trust God. As I make these statements, please note that I'm not talking about remaining in abusive or unhealthy relationships. I'm speaking about not walking in fear because of people. In order for me to do this, I must trust that God got me in all circumstances. Yes, God got me. All right, now, tip number 3. We're still talking about fear because we know that shows up a lot. Yes, it does. Kristen nailed it on the head when she indicated that we walk around with the fear filter. Yes. And if you didn't catch that, it's fear filter. Due to this fear, we become afraid to try anything in life. The outcome of this is that we stop living our lives because we are caught up in fear. She stated, look at new situations with the mindset of I am going to do great. Even if it does not produce the outcome we envisioned, there is always a reason for it. Thus, tip number 3 reiterates tip number 2, which is trusting that God still has a purpose for your life. Okay. To do this tip, as you're working on tip number 1, because we building, tip number 1 is picking one item and considering the benefits of doing it differently. Now I want you to add to it. Yes, I do. I want you to think through what fear is keeping you from doing differently. After that, think through what does it look like to trust God or yourself in this area. For instance, recently I had a talk with myself. I tend to do that sometimes. My hair got really long. When it gets long, I do not know what to do with it. As I'm getting older, I became kind of fearful to get it cut. I was like, if I get it cut, it ain't growing back. And then I was just like walking around. I'm like, hey, I don't want to look like a fool. I ain't got no hair. I'm like, oh, okay. I had to push through. I thought, God made me beautiful with or without hair. Also, I'm not as old as I think. So girl, get it together. Get it cut. And you know what? I got it cut. Thus, work your item. Surround yourself. This is tip number 4. Surround yourself with like-minded people. I shared a long time ago about the value of being around people with a vision who can push you forward. This is so needed because we do get tired sometimes. But when we are around like-minded people, they can spur us on to good deeds. It is like flint lighting the fire.
Want to dig deeper into God's Word? Our community partner, Jesus Intelligence, offers in-depth biblical reading. Go to jintel.net to start your reading plan by acquiring and applying biblical knowledge rooted in Jesus Christ. We hope that you will be strengthened spiritually. Also, Jesus Intelligence is always looking for Christian writers to share their works. If you're interested, please go to jintel.net and enter your information in our Contact Us section. Together, we inspire others to remain anchored in God's Word.
Tip number 5. Not only should we surround ourselves with like-minded people, but we should also possess a learning attitude within these relationships and those who are not like-minded. I really did appreciate Kristen sharing that because sometimes there's people who be like, I don't know what I can do with you. But if we have the mindset of, even though we're not alike, there's still things that I can learn from you. Oh, it's less tiresome because you ain't walking around thinking how much you can't stand the person. Anyways, here's one for you. I have a friend who's always stylish, but maybe not be so stylish. Okay, I'll be honest. This is me and my sister. My sister be, I don't even know the new slang. I was going to say something with slang, but it ain't going to work. But I'll just say my sister be looking good. These young ones, they got new words for things like this. And I'm like, what did you just say? Anyways, I digress. But my sister, she looks good. And so I have to be humble. I have to have an open mindset and say, sister, how should I wear this? All right. And she's so nice. She'll let me know and tell me what not to do ever again. And I'm like, okay, thank you. That's why we're related. But in your relationships, be open-minded. It leads to new understandings and even value to yourself. Tip number 6. How do we remain purpose-driven or in our purpose? Kristen shared not being afraid to find yourself. In this phase, we should allow ourselves to be led by the Spirit and to listen intently to God. This brings us back to praying, reading the Bible, and asking the questions. Yes, that contemplation lens. All right, now we're moving along real good. Okay, tip number 7, which is a complement to tip number 6. Making a difference boils down to doing things that you love and make you happy. Live in a place of authenticity. When you allow yourself the freedom to do this, you embrace your identity, which leads to new adventures, while making the impact that God wants for you. To do this tip, find things that you like doing and just do it. You can start small by just going outside. Yes, getting out the house and do something that you enjoy doing. Of course, be safe. Tip number 8. Kristen shared numerously about us having our unique purpose. She made a profound connection with gratitude, allowing us to believe in ourselves, especially with our gifts and talents. She noted that being fueled with gratitude allows us to embrace God's purpose for our lives. More importantly, gratitude keeps us from comparing ourselves to others. Yes, that was a drop the mic moment. And I was like, what? Wow. And I said that it's like it makes sense. Why? Is this when we're not comparing, we are reminded by the blessings of God in our lives. We're able to see it more because we're not looking at someone else. And while we're being fueled and infused with God's blessings and being aware of that, we continue on our journey. Why? Because we're on our path instead of someone else's trying to be like Mike. Yep, you don't have to be like Mike. She stated so profoundly that gratitude leads to powerful lives. She also, because she's a wise woman, provided insight into how to get started with gratitude. She referenced 2 books, 1,000 Gifts by Anne Voice-Camp, and I Choose Joy by Danielle Delgado. These are some tough names. Here's the great thing. You can find these books on our website. If you go to ahealingpeace.com, select resources in the menu, and then drill down, hit feature books, it's going to be right there saying, click me. Lastly, in all this good wealth of information, she suggested creating a gratitude list with items like being grateful for your family, waking up, drinking coffee, simple things. And then over time, build up the list as you progress in life. It is one step after another, one step after another. Tip number 9. I asked in the beginning, how do you stay motivated? Kristen identified reading personal development books. Learn about others and how they overcame their obstacles. As you build your support team, reading books with this theme will bridge the gap when your support team is not available. You can learn how someone else overcame and apply it to your own life. All right, now, we done made it to tip number 10. Can you believe it? All this good information. Ooh, tip number 10. As you apply these tips, listen to your body. For the first time, you may be more aware that fear is leading you to anxiety. Or like Kristen, she noticed that her previous career choice was leading to anxiety. And listening to her body, she was able to make decisions that led to freedom. Therefore, for you, if you find that your body begins talking to you, spend time in prayer, meditation, good old Bible reading, journaling to process those emotions, and of course, with your support team. If your support team cannot assist, do not be afraid to seek additional help. Well, you made it through our wonderful tools and tips, and boy, are they loaded. Just some great information. And you know what? Like in picking these tools and tips, this wasn't all that she shared. So if you need to go back and listen to episode 113 and 114, do that so that you can build what works for you and apply things that work for you. I picked as much as I could that makes sense. But in doing that, I hope that it inspires you. I hope that you see that you have choices to keep you on your personal growth train, to keep you in that emotional healing train, to keep you anchored in God, to keep you centered in His love, to keep you embracing the peace that He wants to provide. Ooh, all that great stuff. And as usual, I'm going to tell you, come back next week. We are about to kick off another great segment. I have a counselor coming on board. There's some great passages we're going to look at, and we're going to talk about overcoming limiting beliefs. Join us next week.